Next, we have Mr. Granison, who helps entrepreneurs and leaders in organizations master the skill set of communication. Mr. Shines, you ready? We don't hear
Yes,
Granison.
I be ready. Yes, I be ready. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm going to be talking about exactly what we are doing right now. At least the presenters is talking about presenting online. We are forced now to present online. And in fact, I used to think that presentation was presentation, whether it was offline or whether it's online. And in fact, there's not. There's a distinct difference. And so what I'm going to talk to you about today, I'm going to give you some pointers on talking or presenting online. We're taking this 6-week schedule, or I should say the 6-week course that we have scheduled out, and I'm bringing it down to a 10-minute presentation. So obviously there's a lot of content that's not going to be included in this, but we have a program called Mastering Stage Presence, which is program number 2 after you complete number 1, and we talk all about presentation skills, whether you're presenting online or offline. As entrepreneurs, it is all about the presentation for us. So I'm going to be chatting with you about that. Folks, my name is Granison Shines. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker trainer, and coaching specialist. We're specialized here at Seduire in communication confidence, nonverbal and verbal communication confidence. Over the last 26 years, I've had the opportunity to help speakers, consultants, coaches, you name it, organizations, and I love doing what we do in terms of utilizing presentation skills, or I should say, not even just presentation skills, the 43 different leadership skills that we have identified and utilizing those to help them increase their business, whether it's productivity, whether it is for entrepreneurs, it's all about the sale. At the end of the day, nothing happens in terms of business growth until we sell a product or a service. So with that being said, I've delivered thousands of presentations online and offline over the last 26 years. And I started my own business 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago in 2001, and been doing presentations ever since. And in fact, there's a presentation that you're going to utilize for information, and there's a presentation you're going to utilize for sales. In fact, I had to utilize one of those. Actually today, we closed a $6,000 per month deal based on what I'm talking to you about right now, which is closing online or making sure you present online perfectly, all right? So working with companies in many, many different industries, high-tech industry. I started off in the high-tech industry and worked my way through all these other different industries over the years. So again, that being said, mindset, business opportunities, creating those business opportunities, utilizing presentation skills. At the end of the day, for entrepreneurs, it's about 3 things: your presentation, your event, or your meeting, right? And in all 3 of those, you're going to be presenting. You're going to be talking to someone, and you have an opportunity to give information, or you have an opportunity to sell. It's all about one of those to do. As I said earlier, at the end of the day, it's all about selling a product or service to more clients. That's what it's all about, folks. If you're an entrepreneur, it's all about the sale. No matter what someone says, no business transpires until you sell. No growth happens until you sell your product or until you sell your service. All right, and so we focus on 3 factors of your event, your presentation, and your meeting. We talk about skill sets. Skill sets you're going to utilize before the meeting, skill sets you're going to utilize during the meeting, skill sets you're going to utilize after the meeting. Okay, so again, those 3 things: the meeting, presentation, and the event. Skill sets before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. Won't go into all of these, but here are some that are utilized at the appropriate time. Now, you should have all of the skill sets mastered. We always talk about skill set mastery. You should have all the skill sets available for you when you need to pull them out at the right time, but that's always learning before that happens. And right now, we are in a position, because of quarantine, because of isolation, where we should be upskilling. As entrepreneurs, that should be the #1 thing that we're focused on. I should say number 2. Number 1 is still making the sale, still reinventing, getting the sale somehow, some way, utilizing presentations online just like this to make the sale. And then number 2 is upskilling. More skills, more skills, more skills, more skills. If you're not upskilling during this time, I promise you, you're going to be left behind when all this turns around. And it is going to turn around. It's going to look different. But if you're not familiar with how to present online, how to utilize this skill set online and offline, then you're going to be left behind. I attribute this #1 skill set besides communication, let's say #2 skill set besides communication. All right, communication being nonverbal and verbal communication, and then presentation skills. They're intertwined, heavily, heavily, heavily intertwined. There's no separating the two. I have a hair or something in my eye. We'll go past that. So here's our system from a 10,000-foot view, breaking this down into 43 different leadership skills at the top, 7 different modalities going clockwise around. In the middle, that's our transformation blueprint. We call it the communication, confidence, transformation blueprint, and making sure that we utilize this in order to position our products, our services, or actually I should say teach entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, even organizations, because we do have a model where we go in and teach organizations how to utilize all these skill sets, 43 different leadership skills, in order to facilitate more sales and or more growth at the end of the day for the company. So back to what I'm going to be presenting. I'm going to give you some information, 5 tips. Now, again, I scaled this down from the 10 tips that's usually in this presentation. If you want the longer presentation, make sure you hit me up in the chat and I'll give you the longer presentation in the video format. I already made the video format, did this presentation several times already, and for some other organizations and doing lunch and learn. So what we're going to have here, though, today, talking about the Entrepreneur's Guide to Delivering Kick Butt. One of our mentors says kick-ass presentations online. Now, the raise of hands, because I can see you. Does this look familiar to anybody? Right? Does it look familiar? Or was it just me? No? Okay, so this was me many, 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 many moons ago. In fact, the #1 phobia, besides fear of heights and spiders, which kind of toggle between who you're talking to, #1 phobia is glossophobia. Fear of public speaking. So making sure that we have this as a skill set that we can mitigate, or I should say the anxiety we can mitigate when we're utilizing the skill set. Again, glossophobia, speech anxiety, the fear of public speaking, and making sure that we nail this, okay? Now, that being said, here are some articles. You can do a lot of searches online. For the professional, the career professional, and for the entrepreneur, this skill set is a must. This is, again, one of the #1 skills that's going to help you get promoted if you're in the corporate arena, if you're a career professional, and this will be the #1 skill set that's going to help you sell your products and services if you're an entrepreneur. No matter what product or service you have, if you know the product or service, great. That's all good. People say, oh, you should know the product or service, you can sell anything. No, you need to know how to present, and you need to understand what you're presenting, whether you're presenting for the sale or whether you are presenting to give information. And they're totally, totally different. How you open, all the seeds you drop, everything else is totally, totally different. And so we teach this in our class to make sure that our clients know the distinct difference between the two and how to utilize those appropriately. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about your presentation skills, have to talk about technology, have to talk about technology, because right now, this is where we're at. We're in a place where we have to utilize technology. Performing skills or your performance skills versus, or I should say, and your presentation skills, they go hand in glove. You should have both of them in operation. Benefits of increasing your public speaking skills. Talk about the 5 tips from 10 tips and where and how you can get more information. Then I'll answer some questions after that, all right? So the right technology, I'm going to go through this real quick. Here is your business, the business operations and process. Now this really looks like a diamond. There's 4 the square or 4 the circles on the outside, and there's again a diamond on the outside. But right now we're focusing on the business operations and process. If you're an entrepreneur, you're probably in all 3 of those. You have your products and services, and then you have your customer. And depending on your customer, depending on what you're going to be delivering, depending on information, you want to have the right technology for your needs. Zoom, everyone. We're on Zoom right now. You know how to utilize Zoom. There's Skype, there's Teams, everything else. One-on-one presentations, live presentations, group presentations, whatever if you need feedback, either one of these are going to be in play at a given time. If you're going to be utilizing screen share like we're doing right now, have to have the right technology. One of the most important things, though, is to making sure, even if you have, not just for yourself, But if you also have people who are going to be utilizing technology with you, that they know how to utilize the technology. Making sure you always check your settings and everything else is also going to be important. I'll talk about the technology piece here in a little bit, I mean, as far as the settings, but making sure that everyone knows how to utilize that. Proper lighting, right? Making sure that they can see you, making sure you have a good camera, microphone. Sometimes it's good to separate the two. I have another program, another tool, a hardware tool, the microphone for, it's called a Snowball, and I have the Logitech camera. Logitech specializes in the camera, but not so much the mic, so I utilize a better mic. Making sure to record your presentations. Anytime you are going to be delivering a presentation, always, I've been telling clients this for years. Make sure you understand that you can record the presentation. There are programs that record it automatically, like Zoom. If you program it, if you say, hey, just check one little box, record all the presentations. And then there are screen capture softwares that you can utilize always, but make sure you always record, because you can retool, repurpose, and everything else. And just, again, making sure that you know how to use the technology and everyone knows how to use the technology as well. Now talk about you and your presentation skills. Again, I mentioned 2 skill sets, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But one thing you have to have is stage presence. We teach stage presence, and that's a factor, a big factor when you're delivering presentations. Huge factor. Now you also have to bring that stage presence online and make sure you still also understand how to have stage presence online. The good thing about technology is that we can cross local boundaries. We can broadcast to many people. We use many different mediums even at one time, but making sure you have stage presence. Stage presence shows that you have fluidity in movement, speech, audience engagement, everything else, to make sure that all eyes are focused on you. Scary thought, right, with glossophobia. Well, making sure stage presence is one of the factors that you have in your arsenal, all well and good. Now, here's a little quote, and I change it a bit. I was told once before that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Well, yeah, a little bit, but when you're presenting, it is about what you say, and it is about how you say it. It is about what you say, and it is about how you say it. Making sure you say the right thing and make sure you understand how to say the right thing. That's where the paralinguistics comes into play with nonverbal communication. So that being said, let's go to the next slide. Here are the 2 skill sets that I was talking about. You need to have both of these in play. Presentation skills, making sure you're able to perform presentations to peers, to managers, to subordinates and superiors, right? Subordinates, superiors, and utilize that presentation skill unilaterally across the organization. Then performance skills. There's a way where you should just be able to just turn it on. That's when all the nervousness goes away. That's when the skill set comes into play, performing. Actors do this all the time. There are some actors that are very much so introverts, very introverted. And then next thing you know, they turn it on and they give this awesome performance. Well, we should have that going on as well as entrepreneurs, able to turn it on at the drop of a dime, making sure we understand how to do that, all right? Benefits, here are some benefits. We have a long list of benefits, but I just scaled it down to these 5. Communication skills, again, being the number one skill set that you're going to advance when you are utilizing your public skills. Advance your career, boost your confidence, help you sell your products or services one-on-one and to a group. If you're not doing group sales, you need to learn to do group sales, and then learn to persuade influence as well. Persuasion and influence is really big for managers, especially if you're in the corporate arena, or leaders, I should say, if you're in the corporate arena, if you're a career professional. So scaling it down from 10 tips down to just 5 tips. 5 tips on using presentation skills in your talk online, okay? Number 1, now I have these tips. You'll see the numbers. The tip will have different numbers because I took it out and I didn't renumber them. I just left it the way it was on purpose, so to show that we have just more than these 5 tips. I'm going to give you. But tip number 1 is what makes you unique, and use it to the fullest. An important lesson here is understand that your everyday persona, who Granison is during the day, and who Granison is when he's delivering a speech, don't have to be one and the same, and they should be totally different. Okay, not that you're still being authentic. You just talking a different way. Just like I had to learn how to talk a different way. I grew up in a neighborhood where we use a lot of slang and when we were growing up. But I had to learn how to communicate and talk differently, right? So when I'm with my boys, we're hanging out, we're slapping backs and doing everything else and giving high fives, I talk totally different. When I'm delivering a presentation, it's a whole different persona, and you should have those two going for you. Tip number 2, which is actually number 7 in the full presentation, making sure you tell relatable stories to your audience. Add stories that make your presentations more relatable. That'll add a touch, it can add a touch of emotion if you want them to show some emotion and everything else. Number 8, which is actually tip number 3 in this presentation, record your presentations. I mentioned that earlier. Record your presentations. Make sure. And if you're not the one that's in control of the technology, if someone else is recording it, ask them for that presentation. Hey man, let me get that presentation when you're done, when it's all done. Yes, all right, cool. Here's
1 minute.
email address. Send it to me. All right, perfect. Make sure you utilize the technology correctly. Number 9, which is actually number 4, is making sure you understand what your audience is looking for. What are they looking for when you're presenting? Are they looking for information? Are you looking to sell? Are you looking to sell? Are they looking to buy something from you to solve a problem or fill a need? Understand what your audience needs is the key to success when you're delivering a presentation. Last tip I'm going to give you is make sure you practice. Always. We talk about the 6 principles of mastery in our program: audio, visual, kinesthetic, meditation, repetition, and teach. Making sure you do that all the time. Practice. So instead of 10 tips, I gave you 5. All righty, folks. Thank you very much. I am open for questions. How'd I do on time?
Good.
Nailed it. Time. All right, perfect. All right, any questions for me? I'm readily available to answer questions. All good? All right, cool. All right, perfect. Well, thank you all very much for your time there. I recorded this presentation. I'm recording your presentation, so if you want it, let me know, and I'll make sure that I give you that presentation. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
All right, so I have a question for the win. Are you guys ready? The correct answer, please type in the chat. And whoever the first one to respond is going to get the gift from Mr. Granison.